Starting off, just some helpful tips. We recommend you use Google Chrome as your web browser. If I just scroll down here to the bottom, this will pop up. This icon right here is what Google Chrome icon looks like when you click on it. Typically, Internet Explorer is what comes with your computer, and a lot of people will be using that. We recommend you download Google Chrome. It works a lot better with that. And you'll also see probably some improved web browsing, through your other websites. So moving on, so you go on the website prominent, eQuote.com. This will be with the page you should be greeted with. If you're not already registered, that's the first step. You'll click on the Register Here button. You'll need to fill out all your information. Fill out everything in with the asterisks. Those are the ones that are required. And we also, your role, we have it right now limited to distributors, reps, chem vendors, and OEMs. If something comes across with the end user, we typically send them a little email saying, we don't have this open till end users right now, and we try to get them to a distributor or help them out with what they're looking for. So basically, you fill out all that information. You'll go to the bottom. You'll agree to the terms. You submit it. Once it's submitted, it is sent to a couple people here in our building at Prominent. They look to see who's trying to get approved. They'll send it through some channels, through their, the regionals, and make sure it is somebody we want to have access this information. Once it's approved, you'll get an email saying you were approved, and you can then log on. Typically takes 1 to 2 days, or shorter, depending on the time of day it's submitted, and then you should be good to go. So once you're registered, you're just going to put your username and password in here. You'll log in. It should take you right to the main page. You're not going to use too much of this main page. I usually just go right to a quote or look for the parts I'm doing. On here, if you do scroll down, you'll see some news updates. If you click on this actual download link here, you'll get a PDF of helpful hints that tells you kind of what the screen buttons do. You scroll down more, you'll see recent quotes. If you're a new user, you won't have any of these. I've done some quotes recently here, and you'll see those, and I can access them fairly quickly if I need to get into one of these and edit them. Go down, you'll see the pumps. You can click on these and go straight to a ident builder. I don't typically do it this way, but if you need to, in a rush, go click on them. You can navigate it that way. So just going back up to the top, we're going to start by navigating through the different icons here, this toolbar up here, and I'm just going to kind of start from the right and work my way to the left. Starting with the logout, pretty self-explanatory. You click that, you're going to log out. Next, your profile. This also with these, if you don't need to click on them. If you scroll over them, you'll see other options below, and then you click. But you'll see my profile doesn't have any other options, so I'm just going to open that one up. Really, the only time you need to access this is the first time you set up your account. The top information should already be filled out based on what you filled out when you registered. You can just kind of verify that, maybe add stuff if your address does change, the company moves. This is where you'll go to change your address. I can scroll down. You'll see your default cover letter. When you first access eQuote, this is going to be blank. You're going to want to fill that in. This is just the body of the quote when you actually export it. And you'll see I just have a little hello and a blurb saying, hey, here's your quote, my contact information, terms and conditions based on the quote, how long it's valid, field startup things, just payment terms. You'll see lead times there, how we handle our freight, just whatever you think you need there, and you can add that there. You can type that in a Word document and copy and paste it, or you can just directly type it, right in there. Editor mode, typically going to use the new mode. If you're in Internet Explorer or something and you're having some issues, the old mode will probably work a little better, but I strongly recommend using the new mode as it's a nice layout and it works pretty good with Google Chrome. Moving on to the next tab, the Customers tab. When you initially register, you're not going to have any customers. You have to manually enter these. So you can either go to Add New, and you can type in all your customer information, your company name, fill in their names, addresses, emails, phone numbers, and you can kind of even put comments. You can kind of use this even just as a database for your contacts. If you need to go back, you have somebody's name, you're not sure their number, you can kind of use it here to find contact information even for other purposes other than generating quotes. Once you add that, it will save it. You'll have that on your customer list to start quoting. You can also kind of search through your quotes with this list. You can search through your customers by going through this list search option. And you'll see I have some set up. And if say I need to contact somebody, I'm not sure of their number, I can always search through here, either by company name first or last name. So I can always go back and find a customer and contact them that way. Moving on to the next tab, the Products tab, you'll see your different options. The find a pump, you can go in here and search for based on capacities and pressures. It's a little touchy. You have to kind of narrow it down because it does give you a lot of options. I don't typically use that. I usually refer to our catalog or just the Configurable builder if I'm trying to build a pump. Let's go to parts search first. This is where you're going to find all your parts. And let me just show you how. I'll give you some hints on searching for things. First option is if you have a part number in an email, you can copy and paste it in here or just directly type it in here. I just have a standard universal control part number I'll show you. Type it in, hit search, and you'll see the part number come here with description, and you'll have a list price. Now, some things you may run into, if you copy and paste out of an email, a lot of times there'll be a hidden character or space after it. Now you'll see I have a space there. You see if I hit search now, nothing's going to come up. So you need to make sure if you copy and paste or just typing it in there aren't hidden characters. So again, if I get rid of that, you'll see it comes up. So that's something definitely to check if the part number is not working for you. We don't have every single part number, prominent part number in eQuote. We have the majority of them and a lot of the more common ones, and we add them every day. eQuote's a revolving process for updating and adding prices and part numbers every day. So you can search by that. You can also search by description. So I'm going to get rid of the description there. And if I type in universal, I'll have different options. You see the universal control cables there that I just typed in, plus longer ones. So the one I had was 6 foot. If they need longer, you have your 30 and your 15 foot, along with a couple other ones that come up with universal. Now I can narrow this down even more. See, I'm not sure if a part number or descriptions aren't really showing up. I can go to product group. If I go directly to accessories, and then hit this drop down, I can look at, you'll see all kind of different accessories, and I can pick through those to see if anything work. Give you an example, I can go to motors, and you'll see a whole bunch of motors. Say I know I need a 1/2 horsepower. I can narrow it down even more by typing in a description of 1/2 horsepower. Now this is only going to search within this product group. So if 1/2 is in other areas, it won't pull it up just because I'm only pulling from this motor group. So if I hit search, it will narrow it down to 1/2 horsepower, or you'll see anything with 1/2 in it. So 1.5 also shows up. And you'll see you can pick through them, or even narrow it down even more if you need to. providing a better description. So some options when you have a part, you can add them to a cart or you can add them to a quote. I typically don't use my cart very often. It's not very useful. I believe they have it set up for future development that you'll be able to place an order from eQuote, and that's mainly what the cart is for. But say I didn't start a quote, like I don't have a quote going right now, and I had something I needed, I could add it to my cart. That way it's saved. So I want this 1.5-horse motor. You'll see it's added to my cart here. This little information tab will pop up. I can go to my cart. You see I have 10 items here. Now these always stay there. They don't go away. A lot of these items have been in here for quite a while. So I go to my cart, and you'll see the items I have in my cart. And here is, I added the control cable and the motor. I can change quantities. I can remove them, but it's not really necessary to move them. And you'll have list price. If I want to add them to a quote, I just click the button here, and you'll see my quotes here. This is all my quotes I've ever made, going back to around 2012. So I can add them to any one of those as long as I know what the quote ID is. And then you just add to selected quote. Or you can actually add items to a new quote. Going back to the part search, I can narrow this down other ways. We have pre-engineered systems, we call them PESs, and this is where you would go to add these to your quote. So I would go to, you have your D1C, D2C packages. Now these part numbers are just your back panels. You'll see you have a basic and a loaded. You add these to a quote. You also need to add the additional controller, your D1C, and you'll need to add your DGMA sensor holder and your sensors to the quote. This is just the back panel and some accessories needed to mount that stuff to the back panel. You see some other options down below. Now, if I want a single pump skid, I can narrow it down even more. If I want motor driven and I want it to be PVC, you'll have your options down below. And with each part number, you have a PDF of the actual skid that is related to that part number. You can save this and send it with your quote so they have an idea of what they're getting. Everything's labeled so you know the features it's going to be included with that part number. Just a heads up, the pump is not included with the part number. That is added separately. And I'm just going to show you real quick how to figure out what pump you need with what PES system part number that's located here. And so if you click up this PES, you'll see a screen pop up. And this tells you the different identifiers for each PES system we have. Just to give you a kind of brief description, this SS means it's a solenoid, and then the second S means it's just a single pump, or the 2 would be a single pump and then backup. And then these are just your sizes. These are your pump sizes. You see here your sigma sizes, your solenoid pumps, deltas. So let's go back here. So you have your, right here, we know I'm already in the motor-driven ones, and I'm in single pump. So that motor, single pump. So go to PES. Say I have a Sigma 1 12035. I need to find a A050 identifier for my part number. So you see A050. So the Sigma 12035 will work on this skid. And I'll need to add that separately from this part number. Once I know the pump and I have the skid, you know, I'm in the right area of the skid, you'll see this one, this one, this one, hold on. These three are will all fit the same pump. They all have the A050. Next, they're all floor mount. I need to decide if I need, obviously PVC, we have that selected here. I just need to determine if I need EPDM or Viton. And then there's different options. This one comes with a pulsation dampener. This one comes with pulsation dampener plus the flow monitor. And if I click on the drawing, you will see the pulsation dampener here and the flow monitor. So you can kind of give both options to your customer, and that you can see the price differences, your list price differences here. Okay, so after the part search, which we were just in, you can do Configurable Product Builder. This is going to take me to where I build all my pumps. So under your solenoid pumps, you have your Gamma L, your Beta, your Concept, your Deltas, and your Xtronics. Just a tip when you're filling these out, you want to start from the top of the ident code and work your way down. So start from here, building your pump, and work your way down, because as you do that, it will eliminate options that aren't available down here based on your liquid end material and certain sizes you pick. So I'm going to build a pump just real quick. You'll see as I go through, you'll see the price adders over here for what options include. You can tell, different liquid ends are different prices, and you can kind of base that off your chemical and give them a better pricing. Once I can complete the pump ident code, I need to make sure I have this green check. That means it's good. That means it's a valid prominent number, and you can order that. You'll have your list price. You'll have your capacities here, the pump's capable of. And you can either add that to a cart, or I'll show you later how when we're a quote, you can just add it to your quote. But if I were to not have a selection, red X is not good. That means the pump's not valid because I'm missing something, or something up here is not jiving right. And that's just because I don't have accessory. And if you scroll down, you have your recommended accessories. Probably all I recommend to get a universal control cable with your control pumps. You have your three sizes there. You have your calibration column, your back pressure valves, your float switches, your multi-function valves. I usually always try to quote a spare parts kit with each pump just so they have an idea of what maintenance is going to cost them. And it's not a bad idea to have one of those on hand in case a diaphragm were to rupture or they had a leak somewhere. So you can go to motor pumps. That's where you have we just kind of recently added the DFCs. That's our peristaltic Dalcoflex pumps. You have your C's and your B's. The D still needs to be quoted here at prominent. You have your promise pump, your sigmas, and then your macros. Another configurable item is your Dalco meter controllers. That's going to be your D1CBs, your DACs, and then also in here is your sensor housing. This is where you configure your sensor housing that you need with your controllers if you're doing a sample line for your flow. Okay, let's move on to chemical resistance. We've just put some of our pretty common ones in here. You'll also find this in the beginning of our catalogs. This is just some of the more common ones we typically deal with. This isn't everything. We aren't a chemical company, so this is just kind of a general idea of what we recommend, what we've seen, other people recommend with their chemicals. You can search for, you can either type in a name, the name here or the formula, both will pull up. You just click on a chemical you have an application for. You'll see there's a whole list of them here. Just click on this Furic, and over here you'll have a list of recommended materials that you want to select with your liquid end on your pump. You'll see we want to stay away from the stainless and go with one of your other materials here. just a guideline. You'll find other websites with recommendations. It's not a bad idea to find out from whoever's supplying the chemical what they recommend. It is their chemical. They should know all our materials are, just run-of-the-mill materials that everybody has out there. Also, under the products tab, you have where you can export your price list. This will throw it into an Excel spreadsheet, and you'll have a list of all the part numbers and pricing and descriptions of everything that is in eQuote. You may have to format it or delete some items. You can give that to a customer or do whatever you think you want to do with it. Let's move on to actually creating a quote. Different options is I can add a new quote or list search. If I have a quote I was working on last night and I was not finished with it, but I wanted to continue with it this morning, I would go to list search. And if it's the most common ones are going to come up first here on the list. This is based on the date. You'll see based on the date or when I last edited it. This was I was working on this one in the earlier webinar, and I haven't done anything in here since then, so it is my first item. I can search through it. If a customer calls up and said, you quoted me a certain quote number and you need to pull it up real quick, you can type that in here with the quote number, which is right here and will be at the top of your quote when you export it. You can type that in here. Be aware that if the quote is older than what we're searching here, you need to change your date to make sure you're searching back to, if it's 2012 quote, you need to change your date to that date. You can search by company name or also based on quoter, and you can just select any quoter to select any of these. And you'll see I only have access to quotes within people here at Prominent. I cannot access any quotes from any company other than Prominent. I can't look at your quotes. If you call me up and say, hey, can you look at this quote and see if I did it right, I can't go into your quote to look at that. We're not here to keep tabs on what people are quoting or what they're doing with the quote. So let me start a new quote. So I'm just going to add new. First thing you want to do when you set up a new quote is you want to set up your customer. If you have a customer base already set, you can just pick from here. If not, I can add one. And once I add it, it will add to your selected customers. So I can just add a customer, type in all the information, location, name, phone numbers, email addresses, website, whatever information I think would be useful in the future. So I type that in. I can also view the customer's information here, or I can completely edit the customer and change names, phone numbers, anything that I had originally added in here. So I'm going to open up a quote I was working on just as a demo. Now from these buttons I can obviously view or edit, or if I had a customer call up and they were running through an application and I said, hey, it sounds like it's something I just handled, I can copy that application and just edit it if it's easier than starting from scratch, or I can delete. There's really no reason to delete these quotes. You're not limited to how many you can save. And if you look, I have over 865 quotes down here, and that's from day one when I was registered from eQuote. So let's go in here and view and edit this quote I was working on. You'll see I have my customer already here. This is just a random, something I typed in for a demo here. I have all the customer information. Next thing you want to do is fill out an application. And this is just a reference to either a project or, whatever you need to put there for a reference that, would jump out to you or your customer. Moving down to the quote. Once you're in the quote, you now want to just navigate in between these tabs here. You do not want to go up to find a product from this tab now that you're in a quote. If you do that, it's going to take you out of your quote. So stick with down here. Just to give you, I'm just going to kind of run through the different options and buttons you have here. This first top row, it says with selected. That means I have to have something selected down here in order for these buttons to work. So let's just select this pH sensor. I can remove it, and that will completely delete it from this quote. I'm not going to do that, but if you were to do that, it would be gone. If you hit this trash can, it's not going to delete just this item. As you can see, it gives you a warning. It says this section and all materials in it. So if I use the trash can, it's going to delete this whole section here. So just be aware if you're pushing buttons. There's no way to pull that back unless you, actually there is a way to pull it back, and I can show you. Every, I believe, 3 minutes, it's going to auto-save, and you have a countdown here. And those saves go to here so you can pull back a previous state within those 3 minutes, or you can automatically save it whenever you want to. That's a useful tip in case you were to accidentally delete a whole section. So you can apply a discount. If I type here, I can apply a discount. Already here you see I have a 30%. I can either type it here or manually, type it here in this block. And that'll apply here to your total. I can toggle visibility. So if I click that, you'll see it will go a darker gray, or a lighter gray actually. And that will not show up. You'll be able to see this here, but when you export the quote, you're not going to see that in the actual quote. I use this a lot if I need to add some notes to a product, saying, this needs to be ordered from here, this was the price, here's the vendor number. I'll store that underneath the item. That way when a quote comes in, and it may be a random item, I can figure out where I came up with the pricing, the part number, and how we need to get rolling with it. You can also toggle the visibility with this eyeball here. Now, if I need to move things around, there's a couple different options. I can use this to move to a section. So I selected my item. I have 2 sections going, my calcium and my sodium section. So if I want to move it, I can click there and it will move that to that section. I can also, by clicking here, these up and down arrows, I can manually move it around the quote to wherever I want, or I can move it to another section. I can copy to a section. So if I want this here and I also want it down here, typically if you have a couple items, you probably wouldn't do it with one, you can just manually type. But if I want all 4 of these, I could select them, I'd hit copy, I'd pick this second section, hit copy, and you'll see it keeps them in this first section still, but it also adds them down here. So if you're doing a large quote and they're pretty similar, you can add things around, move things around pretty quick. Your sections are right here. You can add your section title here. You can see I have 2. I usually put my application, chemicals, and maybe a brief description of what it's going to do. You have my 2 injection systems. I can switch these around. If I want this to be section 2, I just hit this arrow, and you see my calcium section is now section 2. I can just move that back. These arrows will also move, up or down 1 based on the arrow you pick, and you can see I'm just moving it down or up in my quote. Or you can obviously drag also. If I need to add an item, I hit this plus sign, and I can manually type in or copy and paste an item. You'll see I just type the number, hit enter. Price comes up. I can change the quantity if I want. If I want to give them a 15% discount on that item, I can. And then your total based on these, based on your total quantity and your percentage, you'll get your total here. You can also, let's add another item. I can also copy and paste an ident code. If I have a valid ident code from an email, I can grab it, paste it in here Only thing I'll need to do to get a description, I just need to click these wrench and looks like a pencil. That will take me to the eQuote builder. It does take a second here. And again, eQuote is a web-based browser, so your connection a lot is going to determine how well it works. If you're in Starbucks, it's sharing Wi-Fi with 10 other people, it's not really going to be probably really fast for you. So it is web. We don't have the server based out of our building, so we're kind of running off the same thing you are. But once you copy and paste that, go to the wrench. You'll see I have the green check mark, so that was a good ident code. I can just run through to make sure what I copied was good. Then you'll see my tab. This is in with that quote. When I go back to my quote, and you'll see it. Actually have to save the changes to it. And then I go back, and now I have the full description of that pump here and price. To add items, configurable items, you again want to navigate through these bars here in the quote. You click on them. This is where I showed you earlier you can do your pumps, and then your accessories down here. You can go to your products and add your products like we were in earlier, and this will add to quote as you see instead of your cart. So I typically when I go into eQuote, I'll just automatically start a quote and just start throwing items there. Even if I'm on the phone, I have them there because they may request a formal quote. I have it all written up there. Going back to here, some options. I have a lot of people, distributors calling, asking about discounts. If you have an item down here, there's this special button up here, the auto discount button, and then your customer number should be here. I don't have a valid customer in right now, but your customer number will be here. You click this, it will apply. As long as you don't have any discount in this section, it will apply your discount, and then it will show what you buy from prominent price here. If you have a big quote and you don't want your customer to see all these little prices here, you just want them to see this total only, there is this button here. And that will show up on the quote, and they'll see this price of each section, and then this price, the quote total, prices only, and they won't be able to see any of this. Just useful if you're doing a big quote and you don't need them to see all the little prices to break it down and nitpick every little item. Again, you can automatically save your changes as you're going. If you want to do it more than the allotted 3 minutes, you can see them coming up on 30 seconds. And you'll see a pop-up over here when the 30 seconds expire saying it was saved. So I can add sections by clicking here. And I'll have a section 3. And I can type, if I want this to be an acid section, I can type that there. And then add additional items either by manually typing them or adding them through my product builder up here. Just to kind of elaborate, you can use this for other purposes other than prominent items. If you have other vendors you deal with, you rep other items, you can also add, quote those items in this website. You would just do that. You just type in your vendor part number. Just going to type in a random number. You hit tab. You can type in a description of whatever it is. Say you have just a cable of some sort. You can put that there. Add your price, and there you have an item that isn't prominent. It's not just based on prominent items. You can even make this whole section another vendor of yours. You can have a prominent section here with all prominent items, then have just a different vendor here and list all those items down here in that new section. Just to show you something, a little bug we're working on, and it may throw you off. If you have a random number here and I hit tab, if you look at this price, when I hit tab, it should disappear. It shouldn't, but it does. And if you export the quote, the correct price will actually show up on the quote, All I need to do to fix this, if I just type in, a dollar amount here, your price comes back. So you don't have to get worried if you see that go away. Okay. You can even put $0 there. You just need to type something in there. If it's 0, it will fix it also. So we added sections. Next is your different, once you're done with the quote, your options to export it. You can edit your cover letter. I usually generally go in here and edit my lead times. It's set just from default 8 to 12 weeks. That's pretty long for the majority of prominent items. So I can always change that to 3 to 4 days. I can also change that later on in my exported document. 2 ways you can export this. You can export to Word, or you can do a printer-friendly HTML. And here's the just printer-friendly one. You can print this out, and you can't really edit it here based on this. If you want to, and I usually export to Word. Once you export to Word, it will take a second. Let me try it again. It will usually bring up a button where it will open. You can go into that document and you can edit it. You can change any descriptions you need to change around, delete anything. Though you can add your company logo to it. You can change your lead time there. You can pretty much do anything you want with it there. I usually save all my quotes. I have a folder on my desktop with every quote I've done. That way I can access the hard copy there. Something to keep in mind, whatever you change on the Word document and save, it does not affect what's in eQuote. You have to manually go into eQuote and change any of these items. If you delete an item on your Word document, it will not delete it from this quote.